Welcome to creating the Trammel base part one. We will be creating the base along with the square cutout and this rectangle cutout. And we're going to create this base as one base instead of two actually pieces. So here is the drawing. I kind of simplified the measurements just to show the necessary measurements we need to accomplish creating the base in this first part. So looking at the base, you can see here we have our overall base, and then we have this square cut out, um, and also this rectangle cut out. So once you have Fusion open and you're on a new slide, we're going to go ahead and create our first part of the base. So I always recommend saving your document right off the bat. So we're going to call this Trammel base. Um, and then we're going to work on this file over the next few videos. So go ahead, put in a location where you need to have it, and then click Save. So what I'm going to do here, first thing I'm going to do is create a new component. You can either right click here at the top or go in under the Create menu and do New Component. And we're just going to call this Base. And then click OK. Make sure we're selected on the base here, the component. And we're going to now create a sketch. So click on the sketch button. We're going to click on this plane right here. Then from here, we're going to actually create a rectangle. We're just going to draw it here. Now, as always, I keep forgetting to mention that make sure your drawing or your design here is in inches and not millimeters. And you can change that under document settings in the browser on the left-hand side. So this overall base, it has a size of 4.25 inches for each side. All right, so once we have the rectangle there, we entered in 4.25 for both measurements. We can hit enter, and you can see that now we have our square, the start of our base. We're going to go ahead and finish our sketch. Go take a look at our drawing now. We do need to look at the thickness here, okay, of our Trammel base. We need to extrude that. So here you see we have 0.48 for our thickness. Going back to our base, we're going to go ahead, select our square. We're going to hit the E key or the extrude button in the toolbar to extrude. The arrow is going in the correct direction I would like it to go, and I'm simply going to type in 0.48 for our extrusion. And click OK. And we now have our base, the shape of our base. So next part we're going to do is we're going to add our rectangles, our rectangle and our square to our the front of our base. So I'm going to go ahead in a view cube here and click on the front part so I can bring that up. That's where we're going to be working. So we're still on here, component is selected base here, but we're going to create another sketch. And we're going to click the front of the Trammel base. I'm going to bring this into view here. Now, we're going to create two objects. So first one's going to be the square. And I'm not going to worry about the measurements right off the bat. We can dimension those later. I'm going to make sure you kind of put it in up here a little bit. And then we're going to also create a rectangle. What we want to do is to make sure that we get the proper rectangle. We noticed that in our drawing, all right, the rectangle actually is part of that edge. So I'm going to go ahead and actually create our rectangle. And I'm going to put it on the edge here, and you'll see a little blue X. That means we're on the line. So anywhere I'm going to create that. And again, I'm not worried about the size because we'll dimension that in just a moment. All right, so there's my two shapes. So let's do some dimensioning while we're still in the sketch mode. So go ahead and hit D for sketch dimensions, and we're going to size all of this here. Okay, we're going to work with the square here first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to size our square here, and this should be 1.25 inches for that. And we need to dimension then our side, our bottom here, and that's going to be 1.25 inches as well. Now going back to the drawing, you could see here that our location for our square here, okay, looking at these measurements, all right, you can see that it's 0.406 from the bottom to the bottom of the square, and from the left side of the Trammel base to the right left side of the square. So we have two with the same dimensions here. So going back to our Trammel base, simply going to go ahead and do another dimension. And I'm going to sit here and click on the left side of the square and the left side of the Trammel base. I'm going to drag down my dimension here, and this should be 0.406. All right, and then we need to take care of our other measurements. So we're going to click on the bottom of the square and the bottom of the Trammel base, drag it out to the left here, and I'm going to type in 0.406 and hit enter. We now have our square all sized up. Moving on to our rectangle, so let's take a look at our drawing. Our rectangle, you can see that, let's do our size first. So we're looking at 1.75 inches, okay? And we're looking at zero point 0.5 for our height here on the rectangle. So let's go ahead and put those dimensions in. Hit D for dimension, or hit the toolbar icon for dimension. And we're going to go ahead and make this, we're going to click on the top of the rectangle, drag up, and then we're going to type in 1.75 inches for that. And we're going to also dimension the opening, or the side here, the right side, and that's going to be 0.5. Okay, we have that. Now we need to position the rectangle. So we go back to our drawing, looking at our position. All right, we can see that it's actually 3.25 from the bottom of the Trammel base. You could also measure it from the top and of the Trammel base to the top of the rectangle, which should be 0.5. But the worksheet we're dealing with will actually show you the 3.25. So we'll dimension it that way. Going back to the Trammel base design, let's go ahead and hit D for dimension. And we're going to now select our bottom of the rectangle and the bottom of our Trammel base. Go over to the right here, and this should be 3.25. Go ahead and enter, and now our rectangle is positioned. Once you have all this done, we can then go ahead and hit finish sketch. And it might take a moment. All right, once we have this, I'm going to go ahead and hit the home button by the view cube, just so you can see what objects we have created so far. So what I'm going to do is have you, or what you're going to want to do is select the square, hold down your control key if you're on a Windows computer, or the command key on a Mac, and we're then going to click on the rectangle as well. Go ahead and hit the E key or the extrude toolbar icon. We're going to extrude both of these at the same time. Now, going back to our drawing here, the one thing that I don't have here is how far this goes back. In actual, if you actually look at the Trammel base, it actually is half the depth of the Trammel base. So if we know the thickness of our base is actually 0.48 inches, you can see here at the bottom. All right, so we know we only want it to go to be cut about halfway or half of that distance. Okay. We can put in the exact number for that if we want. Got to go back in and click on both of these again and hit the E key for extrude. So in this case, what I'm going to put in is negative, and in parentheses, okay, I'm going to put in 0.48 divided by 2. And you can see here what it's going to cut out. And Fusion loves doing math equations, so you can do that for the distance. I went and made sure that we had that negative number to do the cut. Then once we have that, you can go ahead and hit OK. And now you actually created your Trammel base with the 2 cuts.